Hi guys. I've actually got some notes because it's the first time I've done this, but I'm going to put them here and try to ignore them. So I run a company called Minerva Tutors. It's a supplementary education company, and by supplementary education I mean anything to do with education outside of school. We do it. So one-on-one tuition, as has been explained, that could be in the evenings, after school, in the holidays. If your child's got problems with maths, they see our tutor. Lo and behold, 10 weeks later, they're good at maths. And we also do workshops at schools. We teach leadership skills, public speaking, not me, but we teach public speaking, leadership. We don't do entrepreneurship yet, but they're all very much things we call life skills, interview training for 16-year-olds. Lots of things that were discussed yesterday. Lots of yesterday's talk was, we need this, and I was like, well, I do that. My company does that. So, other than that, in January we began our adult learning program, so we offer evening language courses for adults. That's at our offices. We call it our language center, and on the website we make it look really big, but when they come it's just the office, but it works. And we also provide bespoke language learning at your place of work. So our tutors will come to your office and on a Monday evening and do an hour, 2-hour class with your colleagues, with your team members. On top of that, we have a charity. So a percentage of our profits goes towards giving tuition to people that can't afford it. But I think I'll come on to that later. So what I was trying to do is explain we're an all-encompassing supplementary education company. Anything that you want to learn outside of school, we do. So how did it start? Like all good success stories, well, I wouldn't call us quite a success story. We're 12 months old, so we're getting there. Like all good success stories, it starts with a failure. And this was spoken about a lot yesterday, so I'll just reiterate it. Hope you don't fall asleep. Failure is key, and then this big fat failure of mine was I was, don't laugh, I was a musician. And I gave everything I had to being a musician for 4 years, and some might say that's not enough. Some might say, that's too much, you should have given up sooner. It depends on whether you liked our music or not. I gave everything I had for 4 years to this project, absolutely everything. And one day I woke up and I walked away. Essentially, the band had failed. Although they went on to be Eurovision Song Contest stars. No, I'm joking. That wouldn't be good anyway, would it? Actually, I forget, Europeans, you like Eurovision Song Contest, sorry. No, they didn't go on to do that. The band failed.
But did you manage to get to Eurovision eventually, or your band did?
No, the band failed. Let's just be straight about it. I walked away, but that meant that as a 4 we'd failed, and they were sad and carried on for 3 months, and they gave up as well. So essentially, the whole thing was a failure. So this was 4 years of my life. Sure, the first couple of years I was in a full-time job. But the last year and a half, we quit everything. We quit all our jobs, and we decided to go for it and give it everything. But it was 4 years of dedication just tossed aside. A waste of time, someone could say. Maybe as a waste of time as me doing a Latin and Greek degree at UCL. We'll come on to that later. But a waste of time, you might say. But actually, when the dust settled, I could look at it and see what it taught me, this catastrophic failure of 4 years of my life. And it taught me resilience. It taught me how to sell myself, which is an absolute key if you're going to think about running your own business. And, you can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't sell it, your business isn't going to go anywhere unless you hire a really good salesman. And it taught me working for myself, which was the key. I was my own boss. It taught me about bad and good advice, something I'll come on to later as well. So it taught me all these things. It was actually, this massive, massive failure wasn't 4 years of waste. Actually, probably the most important thing it told me was how to deal with the disappointing look when your girlfriend introduces you to their parents and you tell them what you do. Oh, you're in a band. Yeah, that bad. Thanks. So that was it. So this big failure actually taught me a hell of a lot, not least how to deal with the girlfriend's parents' faces of disappointment. So the next thing, though, so after that, in the story, about 6 months between there and when I really thought about getting Minerva going, I was doing a lot of soul searching, but I was also doing a lot of tuition. I was a tutor when I was a musician because it was a great part-time job. I could do 10 hours a week, earn £30 an hour sometimes, so £300 a week. Back then, that was about 320 euros a week. Now it's about 450 euros a week. So it was a good supplementary income for me. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was really enjoying tutoring. I started tutoring maths and English. At first, I taught Latin. No one wanted to learn ancient Greek, funnily enough. But I was teaching it and I loved it. And like all good ideas, so this is my big business plan, my big business idea, like all brilliant ideas, it wasn't mine, it was someone else's. And being in this industry as a tutor got me to realize two really crucial things. High demand in the UK and London, I mean, seriously high demand and growing. A lot to do with Russians, Arabs and Chinese coming to London and wanting to send their children to very expensive British private schools. So that was one part, slightly cynical aspect to it, but lots of money coming in and a growing industry. But two, the use of a private tutor for any kid from whatever background is on the up, like this in the UK. People are really seeing the benefit. Parents paying just £30 a week for 1 hour with their kid with one really inspirational tutor. You know, I always say this when I'm explaining why tuition's good. I say, we get a parent calling us saying, my 11-year-old hates maths, not is bad at maths, my 11-year-old hates maths. And I say, okay, sure, we can help you out. Send her a tutor, one of our great tutors. And lo and behold, 10 weeks later, her kid doesn't hate maths anymore. It turns out her kid is really good at maths. So what I'm trying to get at was the growing demand was not just occurring from very wealthy Russians, particularly, coming into London, but also from just across the board. Private tuition is on the grow. So I realized that when I was a tutor. And the second big thing I realized was the big guns running it were idiots. My competitors now, I thought, God, if they can do it, I can definitely do it. These guys, they were turning over, 2 million, 3 million. Sure, this is nothing on the scale of the big tech stuff that you're probably dreaming of starting, but they're turning over lots of money. And if they could do it, I could certainly do it. So that was two crucial things I realized. I could fit into this market because of the massive demand, and also because I saw myself being able to offer something similar but better, which I think is very crucial here. And my advice to any young entrepreneurs is that idea that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Take something that you know works and just do it better. So this brings me on to point 3. See if I can remember it without looking at my notes. Oh yes, how do people react? So I'm saying to everyone, I really want to do this. So I'm going to start my own tutoring company. And we're going to be a bit better because we're also going to go into schools and offer great workshops on interview training and public speaking and leadership. We're also going to do a big charity stuff where we're going to give free tuition to people that can't afford it. It's going to be great. And how do people react? Honestly, terribly. Obviously, girlfriend's parents again were like, oh, what, they were so happy that I quit the band, and then this. And I said, I promise I'll give it a good shot. And now they can't shut up about it. I'm the sole thing they talk about at their dinner parties. So, ha! Anyway, so yeah, apart from the girlfriend's parents thing, funny enough, my parents were always very supportive, but my friends didn't really get it. My girlfriend didn't get it. and this is sort of lesson number 2, I guess, for me, is don't listen to anyone except me. No, really pick 3 people, 4 max, that you listen to on this journey. I mean, I had so many people trying to give me advice during the music days. God, you should try this. You should dance around more. You should, wear a stupid hat. You should write better songs. Great, thanks. But with the tutoring, with the education, people saying, oh, you're too young. I was 26. I know guys, 22, I don't know, there's younger, there's 17-year-olds, making money with tech now, but they were saying you're too young. So the big theme, and they were trying to give me lots of advice. Let me try and make this a bit more concise. They were trying to give me lots of advice, none of which I took, and I'm really pleased about. So that's what I'm trying to say here. I didn't take that advice. But the common theme in the UK, and I'm not sure if it's the same over here on the continent, is if you want to be an entrepreneur, go get some experience first. Work in the city, be a consultant, be a lawyer, be an accountant, be a banker. You've got this good degree from a good university, use it, wait till you're 30, and then quit and start your little, healthy drinks company, which is what they all do. So that's the general advice. It's you're too young. Get some experience. But it was too late for me. I'd been on my own for sort of 4 years, my own boss. I couldn't bear the idea of, well, I could, but it wasn't that. It was more that, hang on, why do I need to wait? I know what I'm doing. In 4 years' time, someone else might have come into the market who'd seen what I'd seen and seen, wow, this market's run by a bunch of idiots. I could do it better. Funnily enough, a year ago, when I pitched the business plan first, in that year, in 12 months alone, 85 companies like mine have entered the London market. There used to be 10. So that is what I was talking about with high demand. Luckily, we're ahead of the wave. So I ignored that advice, that whole do it when you're older thing. And I can't imagine why it would be easier doing it when you're older. This is my new theory now. I mean, I've been so stressed, and this year's been amazing. I've loved it in every single way, but I've been really stressed. And imagine when I'm 30 and I've got a newborn baby and a mortgage. The stress of starting my own business, coupled with that, I couldn't imagine it. But I know people do it, don't get me wrong. And I know, I just think when you're younger, you've got the energy, you've got less responsibility, you've got no standards. I live in a terrible little mucky flat in London, in Brixton. I couldn't do that in my 30s. Right now I don't care. I live with a self-employed journalist who's way messier than me. And the standards, absolutely, the energy, the responsibilities, and also one little thing. I mean, I can take a really small salary and survive. And that does wonders for your profits at the end of the year on your charts. And again, if I was in my 30s, I'd have to be taking more out of the business in order to feed me and help my family. So I'm really passionate now about this, doing it in your 20s, doing it younger than me. Essentially, I tried it when I was 23 with the band, because it's not quite a business, but it's the same. But because if you do it as soon as you can, when you're younger, you fail quicker. You learn more quickly. And also, the big thing is, if this went wrong, which I was always confident it wouldn't go wrong. I wasn't necessarily confident it would be amazing. If it goes wrong, I'm still under 30. I still do something else with my life. I've still got this opportunity. So this was my newfound passion for doing it when you're young, and this is what I'm trying to encourage people to do. So the fourth thing was what made me take the leap. I'll tell you a bit about my background, as an entrepreneur. Like I said, I've spoken a lot about the band, boring. I kind of was into entrepreneurship growing up. I'll tell you a little story. When I was 16, in my village, there was, at Christmas, there's always this huge queue outside the butcher's to get turkey. So the queue stretches all the way around the block. And I don't know what, and it takes sort of 3 hours, people queuing for their duck and their turkey and, whatnot, and their big ham on Boxing Day. I mean, what you guys have here, fish on the Christmas Eve, I don't really understand, or is that the Polish? I don't know. But anyway, we've all got different traditions. Turkey's the big one at Christmas for us. And the queue stretches around the corner the day before Christmas, because everyone's trying to get their nice turkey. And I guess it's when I first realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I saw this queue, people shivering in the cold, with their hats on. And don't know why I added that. I saw this queue, and I thought I could provide them a service here. They're all freezing. There's a cafe down the road. I can go to the cafe and say, can I take orders for you as a fake waiter for the day? And get people coffees and teas and bring them out from the cafe, bring them to the queue, and charge what the hell I like as long as you get your normal price. He said, who are you? I said, I don't know, can I? And he said, yes. So that's what I did. I wandered out for 2 hours to people in this big long queue, asking if they wanted a tea or coffee. And I'd go back, Julie, and get them the tea or coffee. They said, how much? I charged about 50p for every cup. And delivered to them. By the end, the whole queue was very happy, having been very miserable. They all had a tea, they all had a coffee. Back in those days, there was no skinny chai lattes, but it was just straight tea and coffee. And suddenly I thought, this is it. If you can find a need or a gap where there's demand and you can supply it, it just sort of started making triggers in my head. Moving forward, after university, going back to uni, actually. Now, I studied what would be called, potentially, a wasteful degree. I'm really glad this was mentioned in the speech before, actually. I studied dead languages, Latin and Greek. I don't think anyone does that over here. I mean, it's still fairly popular in the universities in the UK. And the reason I'm mentioning it now is I'm going to mention it right at the end, because people often said to me, what the hell are you going to do with that? Latin and Greek, what are you going to do with that? And I always said, I don't know, I just love it. I want to study it because I love it. I really enjoy it. I love other things, music, and at the time. And also, this is not to forget, and this is something that I think Europe can take inspiration from in the UK. In the UK, if you study English or history, or classics like I did, people say from France, I used to meet Spaniards, they say, what are you going to do with that? Teach. Nothing wrong with that. But what are you going to do with that? Teach. And no, most of them go into law. Most of them go into banking. Most of them go into consulting. And I could be completely wrong here, wrong crowd. But the Europeans, continental Europeans that came over to my university, if they wanted to do something in finance, they said, we study finance. If I want to be an entrepreneur, I've got to study business. And actually, that's quite limiting. It's a wonderful thing that the majority of lawyers in the UK didn't study law for their first degree. They did a 1-year conversion. They studied history or English or humanities. So me doing classics, I didn't end up doing law or banking or whatever, but I did it because I loved it. And that's kind of been the theme of everything I've done. I did it because I absolutely loved it. And afterwards, I was in sales. So before the band, I was a sales guy. I worked for other entrepreneurs and did sales. And I always wanted to be the entrepreneur, but I never had an idea. And I'm glad this was mentioned in the speech before too. I really didn't have an idea, and that really threw me. And I thought, I've got nothing really creative to offer. I've got a stupid idea about a linen trousers company and calling it John Linen. It was terrible. I had all these little things, but I couldn't really follow through with them. So I was the sales guy for about 3 different entrepreneurs, and it was great, and I was good at sales, so that was fine, and sales has really helped me. Then I had the band, obviously, and I didn't think about it at the time, but that was being an entrepreneur. And then coming up to this founding of Minerva Tutors, a year ago today, actually, was this idea that, hang on, I love education, I love teaching, I love Latin and Greek, and I'm enjoying tutoring. But what about 10 of me working for me? So instead of me with my 5 clients a week, suddenly you've got 50 clients a week. This sounds really simple, I know. But this is my eureka moment, really. So that's what made me really jump to it, was this love for what I do, love for teaching, the gap in the market, like I mentioned earlier, and the idea that I could take a risk here and it wouldn't be too bad. So this is my sort of lesson 4, and I'll round these up at the end. They're all a bit jumbled now. This is me trying not to look at my notes. It wasn't that risky doing what I did. Doing the band was really, really risky and stupid. You're way more likely to have a stupid little new app in San Diego, Fine. So just to summarize, the achievements that make it all feel great. Like I said, in 1 year we've gone from 0 to 180,000 in revenues, which has been fantastic. What drives me really is how, like I said, to begin with, I loved having an effect on people with my tutoring, one-on-one. But now I've got 40 tutors having an effect on about 5 to 10 kids every week. So suddenly, you've gone from this thing you really love doing, and you managed to spread that thing a bit bigger. Now, it's not quite the 7 billion that was mentioned by, was it Maddie yesterday? That very ambitious plan to change the world. And I'm not saying I want to or will, but it's being able to make a difference to people's lives that's actually what keeps me driving and what has driven me to doing this. So I'll leave it there. Thanks very much.